And next up tonight, we're very fortunate to spend an hour with Danielea Castell. So Danielea is an eco-spiritual social artist and planetary sound weaver from BC, Canada. She identifies as ecosexual, maintaining relations with over 40 bodies of water and trees around the world, with whom she has been exploring interbeing relationship ethics and communication for the past 12 years. Together with her nature elders, Danielea can evoke a space called the water field, where humans and nature beings can dialogue directly on behalf of Earth harmony. Her new company, De Castell and Company, is an international team of interbeing consultants from the human, water, rock, and tree nations. They help individuals and groups bring nature's voice into their everyday lives and decision-making process. You can find more information about Danielea and her work on www.watergratitude.me, including her Thank You Water CD. So welcome, Danielea. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Isabel. Really happy to be here with you. You know, I was remembering as I was getting ready that the first place we met was in Alaska.
It was.
Well,
we were at the Acquisition Festival together, were we?
We were. Now, what's interesting is that Cheryl Angel, who was there also, she had asked me to take her into town, and it was right when your presentation was happening. So I came back and people were like, because they know about my work with water, they're like, oh my God, you missed Isabel, you missed Jen Isabel. And I said, oh, I had to help the elder. And it was all good. And then later we connected by phone and yeah, got to share our work with each other.
I love the synchronicity of that. I hadn't put that together, that we've both been in Alaska together. Actually, Cheryl Angel is coming on tomorrow night to chat on Uniting for Water with us. Yeah.
Beautiful.
For that. She'll be actually in the exact same time slot.
Ah, beautiful. Well, do you know what else that reminded? Sorry.
No, what did it remind you of?
Well, the Chilkat River, the Chilkat River, which is the river that the festival was beside, and the festival was in support of, because a proposed mine was going to be developed that was going to affect just literally upstream from where it's a very famous river in Alaska because it's shallow and the number of salmon that spawn there. And so the eagles gather. It's one of the largest gatherings of eagles. But what the connection I next made after being that's where we met was I had previously met that river, the Chilkat, the very first year in my very first water pilgrimage. So that was that was 2012. That was 2012. And I had moved to the northern
7-year cycle later, I think, because wasn't it 2019 when we went there?
I believe so. Yes. So it was, that was 2012 was the year that I was instructed by Spirit to turn my attention from trees, who I had been studying with for the previous, intensely for 2 years, but 4 years in total, to turn my attention to water. And this was at the same time that that Enbridge, the oil company, was proposing to build a pipeline from the tar sands across the top of our province to Bella Coola, to the ocean, which was going to be, it crossed like 250 plus waters. And so the potential for leakage and issues, regardless. So the issue heated up in the north, but I was clear that I was meant to support water, not to join the activists to stop the building of the pipeline. And I had actually stopped being an activist many years before, because I had discovered that if I was promoting sustainability and yet I was finding myself split inside, how was I modeling what I wanted to see in the outside world? So I stopped. And then I began to study with the trees, and then they instructed me to go to water. And so I didn't know how I could support water. So I did what I did with the trees, which is I go direct. And this is really my philosophy and my way of being in life is I go direct and listen 360. So that's my strategy with nature beings is go direct, listen 360. So I literally packed my car, committed to a 30-day solo pilgrimage. And I remember the moment I stood outside, everything was full, my instruments, my camping equipment, my ability to cook my food. And I just said, Spirit, guide me and I will obey. And every single body of water that called to me as I was speeding by at 100K an hour, I would hear, Danielea, Danielea, and I'd go, turn on the blinker, pull a U-turn and go back and sit with them quietly and connect heart to heart, introduce myself and find out why they'd called me. And so that was the very first pilgrimage that I took. It was the beginning of almost a decade of every summer being called by a different body of water. But the interesting point for me is the fact that I thought that I was going to be really enlivened by the Yukon, which is, a Canadian province. And really at the last minute, somebody said to me, hey, Danielea, make sure you take your passport. It's right beside Alaska. And I was like, oh, cool. So I took it. And when I found myself in Whitehorse, I found that I was allergic to the mosquitoes. Like, I'm serious, like a bite would get like really huge on my face. And I'm like, well, I guess the Yukon isn't the place for me. I'm out of here. And so I did some teaching, I would do private mentoring, and then I went across across the border and ended up in Haines, Alaska. And I had no idea about the Chilkoot River or the Chilkoot River. I just literally was going blind. And I was told to sleep by that river one night, and I did. And then I met 3 men, and it's a big, long story, but essentially that river and those men really helped to teach me that water is love. And I fell in love with love. That was the first lesson for me, was to fall in love with love. Not the people that I love, but to fall in love with love. And so that was really, as I say, the first lesson that water taught me.
Beautiful. And you said that since then you've developed relationships with various bodies of water every summer, since that's impactful bodies of water that you've met and had the opportunity to commune with.
Yes, I mean, to be honest with you, I was highly motivated in building these relationships with these nature elders. I was born with 3 highly developed gifts as clairaudient, clairsentient, and claircognizant. So even from the age of 5 years old, I could hear what people were thinking. I could feel what they were feeling. That didn't match what they were doing or saying. And I just knew things that were far beyond my age. So I found it extremely difficult to be in the human world where there was lack of integrity. People just weren't consistent inside and outside. However, I was really fortunate that I had a grandmother willow tree and a creek at the bottom of my street. And so I would escape every chance I got. I would escape the human world and go down there. So, I knew on some level that they were my allies. And then it was in 2008 that I had a spiritual call to go to the sacred island of Haida Gwaii. And I thought it was Mother Earth that had called me. I knew really that she was my stronger bond rather than humans or my human mother, that she was my stronger bond. But it turned out to be Mother Ocean who called me, and also the Sitka spruce trees. And, I had an opportunity to be really angry with humanity about the way they were treating the trees. And in a fit of pique, I just literally said to the universe, I was about to say, why can't they feel what they do to Mother Earth, which was the question that I'd asked for so long. It's like, why can't they feel what they're doing, right? The government, the corporations, etc. And instead, I had the wherewithal to say, why do I feel so much if all I'm going to do is judge humanity? So then what good am I, right? I'm creating separation in the world. And I was by myself upstairs at my friend's house, and I literally heard, as if these beings were in the room, you are an interspecies ambassador. And they just stopped this rant cold. And my entire life flashed before my eyes, all of it. Not fitting in, not desiring to own things, not desire to have children, nothing, not fitting in anywhere. And I just realized it was perfect, that I was perfectly positioned in between the human world and yet so drawn and resonant with the nature world, with water and trees. But I wasn't a tree. I was a human. And so, anyways, my life made perfect sense to me. And so I set out to develop my gifts in order to be a bridge between humanity and nature.
Beautiful. And how would you recommend that other people develop these gifts? Because they're our birthright as human beings, as earthlings, and we are all earthlings. How do you recommend people start to get connected to the water field? How can they deepen their connection to and their experience of it?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful question. So you're absolutely right. We are wired to connect and to communicate with Mother Earth and all her kin. I will say up front that each of us, in my opinion, each of us has a unique relationship to nature. So what I can share is certainly some general principles, some things that are ways that I do it. But above all else, I encourage people that this is a place where learning to trust yourself, trust your intuition, is one of the key practices. So here's the thing: when we communicate with any nature being, the place where the communication can happen is in our bodies. So the first things that the trees taught me, which is why I sat with them for 2 years, was how to sit quietly, sit still, quiet, and use my breath to slow down, like really slow down. If you think about the element air, it's very fast, right? You can throw a ball and you can catch it. It's very fast. But now think about throwing a ball through water, right? Which is feeling. You really can't. You have to walk that ball through. So you can see that even just as I start to think about sitting with a tree or sitting with water, the first 5-6 minutes is just breathing and slowing down and bringing my awareness into my body. So that's number one. And then the other thing that I do is I just kind of hang out for a while. Just hang out, breathe. And then the next thing is feel, breathe and feel. So we can receive sensations in our bodies. We can become aware of our feelings. So for example, you can be sitting with the river and just really needing that rest time. And as you start to relax and you start to feel good, then that's the time when you can really have some feeling in your heart, that I recommend you just send a little wave out to the river or to the stream or the creek. It's just a little wave. And I just send a hello with that wave. And I just keep breathing. Just keep breathing and feeling, because that wave of energy will be met by the spirit of the creek or the river. And then they'll send something back. Now, every body of water has its own spirit and character and voice. So one of the other things I learned very soon was, don't assume that connecting and communicating with one body of water is the same with another. So when you're listening back to feel and hear what comes back, just be open. So some of the things that can happen is you can all of a sudden have an image in your head that doesn't seem to have come from you, is likely something that's inspired or transmitted from the creek. Another thing that can happen is you can hear something telepathically. So it's like a soundless message. You might hear a high back from the creek. But as I say, it doesn't have any sound. Another thing is that you could feel relaxed, and then you reach out and say hello, and then you feel this rush of effervescent, bubbling energy. And more people than me have felt this when you first reach out to water, because water loves to be communicated with for the most part. Water's very social, different from some trees, right? So you can get a rush and you just know that you are in sacred connection, and it's playful and fun. The other way that you can receive a message is for myself, because I'm a singer and a sounder, is that sometimes the energy that I receive from them translates into sound or music. And so when I receive that inspiration, then I send that music back down through the wave bond, the heart bond, as I call it, to the other being. And so the conversation goes back and forth in pretty much the same way that it would be if you met a new friend and you were in a cafe, right? You introduce yourself, you say who you are, where you've come. You might repeat, why have you met today? You know, I came to meet you because you're a friend of, or in this case, when I come to a river, I'll come and I'll be relaxed and quiet and hang out for a bit. And then, you know, I'll introduce myself in some way and say, I'm Danielea, and my river is a Shtako, and I live in the Upper Caribou region, and I'm traveling. I'm traveling through your land. I'm on my way to the Kootenays, and I just saw you here, and you looked so inviting. I wanted to come down and say hello. And then I just
Do you
breathe.
typically make an offering when you meet a new body of water? Do you come with gifts of tobacco or song or crystals, or do you have an offering practice as well?
I do. I do. This is the reciprocity in the relationship is essential. So it can be in the form of offering that is a sacred herb like tobacco or sage or cornmeal is another very, very acceptable, especially from the Southwest. Or I offer a song, or you can bring a poem, or you can make up a poem. Also, another way to give back or make an offering is if you arrive somewhere. This is a practice that I do always, is when I arrive, I look around me, and if there's any service I can do, picking up garbage, pulling things out of the water, that essentially is always the first thing I do, even before I address them. I don't ask them really to give me my attention until I attend to the detritus that we have left as humans. So that for me is protocol number one. But yes, I make an offering. When you first begin this practice, it's nice to have an order of things, but as you do this more and more and you build relationships with more waters and more trees and more nature beings, like me, my entire life is a reciprocal relationship with water and trees. I mean, I've barely left my home in a year and a half, and yet I am in continual negotiation, connection, calling in, and collaboration with water and trees. Because when COVID arrived and I could no longer be mobile, we, and my team were forced to discover other ways to convene together. And so I discovered that it's possible to call them in and to literally sit at a table together, which is what I call the water field. It's an interbeing council. So again, you know, for traditional indigenous people, they have set practices that have been passed down for thousands of years. And I encourage anyone who is in communication or interaction with any nature being, just check in with your heart. What feels good for me to offer to this being? And what do I have that is of meaning? And if there isn't anything that you have in your pockets or anything, or a poem, or maybe you don't feel like you want to express something creatively, you can always take a hair from your head and you can offer that hair into the river. With all offerings, it's about the intention, not the substance as much.
Sure. So as you're sharing, I'm reflecting on how all people have a relationship to water, even if that relationship is just to completely ignore it and pretend like they don't have a relationship to it. Nevertheless, we are a part of our watershed, and we are drops of water that come from the watershed and will return to the watershed again. And we have to nourish ourselves with water that comes from the earth, even if people are not paying attention to the process of where that water comes from or even how they drink it. We all still have a relationship with water. So I'm curious how, in your perspective or in your experience, does our collective relationship with water reflect in our collective consciousness, in our environmental policies, and our community connections, and our level of awareness and presence to even our daily lives? If we're not in present awareness, contact, and connection with where our lives come from, how does that affect our collective consciousness in general?
Well, we are living with the effect of that lack of connection. My antidote and really the commitment of my service is to inviting people to imagine and to step into the act of building a personal relationship with at least one body of water and one tree. So there is a lot of attention paid to our external relationship and the collective relationship. But as I said, for me, once you make the heart bond, you make the bond with a body of water or with a tree, you are awakened to exactly the relationship you're talking about. And it's also why I say awake, we wake up inside the water bond. Because just as you so clearly said, it is always here. We've just been asleep in it. So for me, I hold this dream and this vision of a world in which every single person has a personal relationship with one body of water and one tree. And to me, when they become family, that's when we visit them regularly. We're in a position to see if something's going on with them that needs some attention from the human world, and to be a messenger from that riverbank to the city council or to the nonprofit organization. But I say to people this, imagine a kitchen table where there's a father and a mother and a 9-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy. And imagine they're eating dinner and the father stops for a moment. He puts his fork down and he says, "Wife, I need to take a couple of days off. I need to travel to go and sit with my tree." And right away, the wife knows something's going on at a soul level for him. And she knows him well enough that when he says he needs to go, he needs to go. And she honors that. And he's able to take that time. The young girl who's sitting at the table knows that this is something that happens, that there's times when her mom and her father need to go and sit with these nature elders, go and be with this one nature being that they have a heart bond. And they know that that heart bond the dad and the mom have, that they've had them since they were children. So I imagine another time at another kitchen table, and the girl is going to the mother, "Mom, I think it's time." She goes, "Time for what?" The girl says, "It's time for me to find my tree." And so the mother says, "All right." And then she knows that she's now going to make time to take the young girl around so the girl can just track using her body and her heart and her intuition to find the tree that is calling her. And the tree and her begin to build a relationship. And imagine that that girl grows up and she has that ally. She has a strong leader, a being who is integral, who is connected to community, and who will listen to her and with whom she can learn to speak as well. And I imagine you go to your doctor and you're not feeling well, and your doctor has his own relationship with his tree and his river. And the woman he says, "Tell me about what's going on in your life." And she tells him, and he says to her, "Have you gone to ask your river?" No, I haven't gone. And he writes her a prescription, maybe for some kind of medicine or herbalness. But he also writes on it, spend time with your river. Imagine the president of the United States or the premier of your province, or the prime minister of Canada is there's a bill in the House that is causing conflict and doesn't feel good to him. Instead of going to his human advisors, he decides to go and either ask his tree or to sit with the river and to ask the river, explain the problem, and let river answer back in whatever voice river would have for him. I mean, I have this kind of relationship with many bodies of water, and I live a rich life of connection. And these ways of being in relationship that I've learned from these elder trees and water, I've taken these into the human realm now and can now build relationships with humans and sustain them with humans, because I rebuilt the bonds of trust with these elders who took me under their wing and taught me the medicine that they carry. So I think, to answer your question, we're really talking about a different paradigm. It's a one kind of paradigm that we've been living in, where our nature relatives weren't subjects. I use that word very carefully. They were objects. So to restore what we're talking about means that we rebuild the relationship one at a time. One water and one tree and one person. Imagine a world where everyone has those bonds since childhood.
It's truly profound, because instead of that, what we've developed is echo chambers of human thought, where human ideas are constantly mirrored back to humans in an almost exclusive bubble that really does exclude more than human intelligences, and even denigrates them in some senses, and setting human intelligence on this altar, and then creating these warped fields of like fractal confusion, especially in cyberspace. Cyberspace is nothing but humans mirrored back to humans in this weird shadow realm that barely exists and disconnects us so much from what does exist. And we just had Dean Hall on yesterday. I did an interview with him, and he, I don't know if you're familiar with Swimming in Miracles, but he actually cured his leukemia by swimming in wild waters. He swam the entire Willamette River and cured his terminal leukemia. And so now he's really on a mission to teach people of the curative healing powers of communing with wild waters. And so, I love that you were sharing the example of, how would this affect family dynamics, and how would this affect political dynamics, and even when it comes to medicine and healthcare, expanding our understanding of what is medicine and who carries the capacity to heal beyond just the doctor and other humans, and recognizing that these other sensate, sentient beings carry these capacities to heal, and particularly bodies of water. The ripple effects would be more than we could currently comprehend.
I just realized that I never hit record when we started. So I'm going to do that.
Well, the recording is going to be on Facebook on the World Unity Week. So I think you should be able to download it from there.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. But if you prefer to have your own recording, of course, you're welcome to record.
I'll just do that. No, that's fine. I wanted to, what you shared is a really good segue. My own personal path, as I shared with you already, was a great deal of time in apprenticeship, learning about interbeing ethics and communication. So that's a lot of that about how do we interact together. And then I went through a dark night of the soul in 2019, right before we met. I was in Cape Town, South Africa. And a dark night of the soul, essentially, in that case for me, meant getting everything stripped away, everything stripped away. Even though I was 10 years almost into my apprenticeship, I still there was a fracturing of my ego self that needed to just crumble. And I left Cape Town when I got on the plane. I only had two things. One, I sing with water and trees. Like, I sing with water and trees. And I had formed a second interbeing relationship. The first one being with Ishtako, my river, English name Fraser River. That was 2012. Then I bonded with Nokupila, who's a 400-year-old wild fig tree in Cape Town, South Africa. And her name means the all-healing mother tree. And so this was a second incredible gift. Not only have I been loved by a river, but now I have this mission. And Nokupila and we recognized each other. We share a mission. Her mission is Earth Harmony, and my mission is Earth Harmony. And so we bonded missions. And I say this as an example that my relationship with Ishtako, I call him, he's my life mate. He's my bond mate. I mean, I'm going to pass from this realm before he will. Right? That's the kind of situation. Now with Nokupila, we share missions. So I bring her into conversations, I bring her into ceremonies when her unconditional mother love is needed as an influence, either for healing or to help me generate that energy. When I returned and my feet were once more on Canadian soil, I realized the implications of what had happened in Cape Town, and that I had literally transitioned from being an apprentice to these beings. They were now asking me to step up into full co-creative partnership. Full co-creative partnership. And so shortly after I returned, I received a melody that I now call Om Tare Tree from a grove of trees. And that is a melody that the trees gave to me and asked that it be recirculated on the earth because it restores the infinite connection between trees and people. And I knew when they gave that to me that they didn't give it to me for my healing. It wasn't because I needed it. It was the first time that they'd given me something simply as a messenger, as a bridge to the world. And then it was shortly after that that I organized something, an installation called a Listening Earth Lodge. And this is where I took a group of women and we interacted for a full weekend with a small grove of trees. And when I say interacted, I mean, I didn't even enter the grove. I stood on the outside, negotiated that we were coming. Together, we figured out how much of the space could we put human things in and how much human things. So this was full creative collaboration. If the grove had said, no, thank you, not now, then I would have respected that and moved to find another grove. So this was moving, and this was me moving into moving into groups, bringing humans into my practice, and also into full collaborative cooperation. So the fast forwarding a bit to COVID coming on the planet, 3-4 months of just deep listening. Spirit, I was just guided to be quiet. I didn't sing, I didn't chant, I didn't interact very much with the outside world. I mean, we were all stay at home. And there was some important realizations that happened for me. And then in June, mid-June or so, I was given 2 instructions. One was not to offer my sound and nature work in any form that I had previously. So that was over. Now it's going to be new. And secondly, I was given the very express instructions that it was now time for me to start partnering with humans and with who loved water and trees as much as I did. And that in fact, that was essential in order for my new work to come through. And so I'm a sound healer. I offered a new event called I Change. I partnered with my host in a new way. And then in July, in connection with the Water Unity Group, which formed from World Water Week last year, I was guided in a meeting that we had, a Zoom meeting, to say, hey, would you guys be open to bringing water's voice to the table? People were like, okay. And so I did a prayer as I do. I opened up sacred space. I spoke to the great world builders, and I called in what I call in, but invite in Ishtako, my river, and I brought him in, and I could feel his energy join the field, right? This is a feeling realm, right? Feeling intuitive. And then I invited the next person, and that person brought in their river. And I felt the river enter, like I felt the energy shift in the field. And as each person around the Zoom table brought in their body of water, I felt the body of water show up. And that's when I realized, my goodness, when we call in a body of water that we have a heart bond with, this is the key. We must have a heart bond with it. That being can be presenced in cyberspace, in virtual reality. And then we can have a conversation. So one of the reasons that I'm bringing us to this point is to say that not only are we wired to build a relationship with these nature elders, a water and a tree, and any others, a mountain, and lots of people do this with animals, but I believe that there's a greater invitation on the table for all of us, which is to literally step into co-creative partnership. And so I have events like Water Hearts and Tree Tales, which is a seasonal ceremony in which we get together before the equinox or the solstice. We honor our journey and we bring in the nature elder who's been a companion for us. And we name what it is that we've got from them and how they've helped us. And then after all the humans have spoken and brought in their nature helpers, we go into meditation, and each person who presenced that body of water or tree asks from their heart to the spirit of that river or tree and invites them to speak. Is there something that you would like to say to us? Is there so? And then you ask the question and people listen. And then you write down what you receive. And then the last round of the sharing is sharing the messages that come from these elders. So you see, there's two things here. And my job is particularly this, which is to help prepare the way to make a space in human conversations for the water and tree elders to have a place to speak. And yes, you can imagine this could happen in the city council. It could happen at the dinner table. It could happen at the park, right? There's so many places where bringing in nature's voice can assist us as we're trying to build this new world together. Because let's face it, they've been here thousands of years longer than we have. So they have a perspective, they have the long arc perspective, and we sometimes need that. We choose too quickly without enough information to see the effect of our choices. So we need these relatives, we need their counsel, and we need their love and their steadiness in order to have the sustaining energy for this long road ahead back to a thriving world.
As you've been presencing the entire time you've been speaking, and I just want to acknowledge it for anyone who's listening, so it's really clear that each one of these bodies of water has its own unique medicine, unique personality, its own unique spirits, its naiads, its way of carrying energy, just like each person does. And yet all bodies of water are connected. They are all one water, just like we are each very different human beings with very different personalities, but we are a part of humanity as a whole. And so I'd love for you to share a bit about how you see the coherence of all bodies of water as one body of water. And also, and this is a question that I think each person listening can ask the water themselves, but because you have such an established practice with communing with water, if there was one message, doesn't have to be succinct, but one general something that water would love for us all to know, all to hear, all to understand.
So I'll answer the first question, the one water. In my lexicon, so in my worldview, there is water, capital W. Water, capital W. And just as a side note, in all of my written communication and my visualization of these words, tree, snake, water, river, lake, creek, always capitalized. Always capitalized. This is a being, just like Isabel or Danielea is capitalized. So now, in my water world, water, capital W, is one of the 5 great world builders: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And I have a very, very strong relationship with each and every one of them that I have cultivated as carefully as I have with the bodies of water. So when you speak of the one water, when others speak of it in those terms, I relate to the world builder, water. This is the big kahuna, big kahuna. I stand toe to toe with them as equal, but I never forget that this great being is ancient and wise. So I distinguish water, capital W, from river, specific lake, specific hot springs, etc. So they're all they're manifestations. It's, you know, if water was God, all the rivers and lakes and streams are the people. Like it's they're physical representations of the one. So they contain the one as well as the individuated spirit that they have. Now, I will say to you, this is important for me to clarify from the communication point of view. And that is that I believe there's 2 and many more, but 2 especially different kinds of communication we can receive from water. So this is coming in to really answer your second question. I can receive there's communications that water speaks to me directly, and there's no interface through my system. That's direct. The number of times that an elder has spoken to me directly with no interface through my system is that many times in 12 years. The rest is me receiving a message through my own system, And I'll tell you, when Mother Ocean greeted me after I arrived on Haida Gwaii, really, really ill for 5 days, just purifying. And I finally went out after 5 days and walked down onto North Beach, which is the edge of Haida Gwaii, and you can almost see Alaska from there. And she literally said, "Greetings, daughter." The resonance of those 2 words, I can still hear it inside of me. And this is the same when they speak directly to us. I'm sure it's the same as when people say God spoke to me, because it literally imprints on us, right? Like when they told me, and I was an interspecies ambassador, and there's been a few times when Mother Earth has spoken to me when I've planted myself in her body. So, when we talk about a message from water, if I tune in now, it would very likely only come through my particular system. And so now that I think about it, I do have something that I want to share with you that is a message directly from Mother Ocean. And just to preface it, I want to say that I want to mention the World Water Law, which is a proposal, really, for humanity to become aligned behind the natural laws of water and nature. And when I first encountered the World Water Law last year, when it was just released, I read this law and I looked at it, and my background is physical theater, and I looked at it and I went, what if the water law walks around in us, right? How can we embody the law? Because the change coming from the outside, again, I go, let's do it on the inside first. So the reason I'm telling you this is that right after I said that question, what if the World Water Law walks around in us? I was given what I call doorways of consciousness. These are phrases that became the body of this experience that I've designed called an eco lab. I Am a Water Body is the name of it, but the eco lab is the form of research. And this is an experience. There's actually one happening on Friday as part of the World Unity Week. And it's a journey with the waters inside your body. So this is where you can go in and get messages directly from your own waters about what you are being urged to do or be at this time. And so I've been off.
Exactly when that is and what room it's in case they want to check that out.
Sure. Yeah. It's 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's in the Uniting for Water room. There is a Facebook event. I could put it in the chat maybe before we leave, or Uniting for Water, 2 to 5 p.m. It does require registration because it is on Friday. Yeah. And so there's only spots for 10, and we do have Spanish translation this time. So I'm really welcoming our Spanish speaking people to join. And so, as you know, I've been offering this. It's free. It's always free. Water gives freely to us, and I've been guided to offer this experience freely. And in the 10th Eco Lab that I hosted on May 18th, many of the women, it was with the island of Fiji, and many of the women called in Mother Ocean. And also I, over the 10 Ecolabs, have been guided that my focus is now to turn towards Mother Ocean, to be partnering with her, as opposed to freshwater rivers. And so when we approach the first doorway of consciousness, I can take the journey as well. And so I said to Mother Ocean, how may I serve you? So this is the message. The message is what I heard her say was, see me in my wholeness. See me in my wholeness. See you in your wholeness. See you in your wholeness. And I immediately understood what she meant. And I took those instructions and I have partnered them with this vision that I've carried for more than a decade of a sound weaving dream team. And so I am now leading ceremonies in which, as a team of people, sounders, light holders, and dancers, we are doing transmissions from our wholeness to the wholeness of a watershed or a forest or a river. And in fact, we're doing one of these tomorrow as part of World Unity Week. And it is going to be a transmission of wholeness to the whole planet in collaboration with Mother Earth and Mother Ocean. So the reason I really impress upon the fact that this energy of wholeness when we freely give it fully from ourselves, our nature relatives can receive it and do with it what they know best. When we've meddled in the natural system, I personally don't think we're the ones to fix it. If I had my druthers, I would say, pull out, get out of the way, pay attention to your own heart, to your own body, to your own family, your own relationships. Bring your own backyard and your own life into right relation. Mother Earth and her kin know exactly how to restore wholeness to their system. And so I feel very aligned with her message. She doesn't need any more of our grief or our sadness or whatever. They will take it. It's all good. They don't judge us. They love us. They always will. But if we really want to serve, embody your own wholeness, trust that energy, and make of that a gift, unconditional. So for example, when we did this ceremony, twice we've done it with the Deva of the Fairy Creek watershed, where the trees are threatened to be cut down. So we didn't offer that energy going, here, take all this energy and stop the people from trying to cut you down. It's like, nah. Just offer this influx of energy and let the Deva of that watershed distribute it to their own eco community in the way that they know how. And you know what she said? Because we do the transmission, and then as always, we go quiet and we listen back to hear the response. And you know what I heard her say? This is what I heard her say. She was like, I can take a whole lot more of that. So our joy and our wholeness,
their autonomy and honoring their sovereignty and honoring their wholeness, to be able to use those energies as they need, not as we think they need.
And it's pure. So what we're giving is pure, right?
Yeah,
she doesn't have
with our own agendas.
She doesn't have to work hard, like on top of everything, all the other stress going on in the forest. She doesn't have to turn around and clean the energy in order to distribute it to all who need it. She's given it full. And so it's, and look at, you can see the energy in me, like it feeds us to embody our wholeness, right? So it's like, get your own act together. Now, she didn't say that. That's what I took from it. And so this is really important. They don't judge us. I don't believe Mother Earth is angry or mad or sad. They don't have that capacity like we do. Those for me are projections of our human condition. However, it doesn't mean that energetically we're not influencing each other. We are. Yeah.
So we have a question in the chat. Shauna says, are we able to register today before Friday? And which room is the watershed transmission in tomorrow?
Yes, it's also in Uniting for Water. And I'm going to put, yes, if you want to.
Same Zoom link.
Yes, it is. Yeah, exactly. And Shauna, if you want to attend the Eco Lab, I just put my email in there. It's really important that you register. As I said, there's only a small number of spaces. And then I just wanted to, I'm going to put the Facebook link because it's really important that you read what it's about and really understand, because this is a sacred journey and you do need to be able to commit to the full 3 hours. So there's the Facebook link. I also put it in the chat. And yes, I welcome to hear from people. Was there anything else? Yes.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left, so I would love to invite you to close us out with a prayer.
How about I sing for a moment? I'd like to, this is the title track from my CD, Thank You, Water. And yes, that's on watergratitude.me, and all the proceeds go towards my water work. So I actually asked my kitchen tap to give me a song that I could sing to it when I turned the tap on in order to give thanks. And this is what I received. Oh, thank you, water. Thank you for my life. Oh, thank you, water. Thank you for my life. Oh, thank you, water. Thank you for my life. Oh, thank you, water. Thank you for my life. And the great thing about this song, when I used to sing it around the world, was you can just translate it into any language. So, gracias agua, Spanish. Oh, gracias agua, gracias agua. Oh, gracias agua, gracias agua. Oh, gracias agua, gracias agua. Oh, gracias agua. Thank you for my life. And then sometimes I sing the name of a body of water and I say, thank you for your life. And there's one more thing I want to share. Well, actually two, and I'm watching the clock. So I receive music as well as teachings. And then I also receive inspirations. So for example, when I founded the Water Gratitude Project, it was based on the fact that I realized that I had said thank you to people for handing me a pencil or opening the door, but I'd never said thank you to water. And so these beautiful things are called water blessing bracelets, and you'll see them on my watergratitude.me. But what happens is we make them, and you can make your own, but you wrap it around the base of your tap where the water comes out. And then it's this beautiful blessing bracelet. And so every time you turn the water on and off in your kitchen, your bathroom, or your shower, it's a reminder to greet the water and to say thank you. So I wanted to just remind people of that. And we have them and we sell them, and you're very welcome to make your own. And the last thing I want to share is, since I've been calling in the water field, which really means I'm calling it in closer. It's already there, but when we call it in through a heart bond, we bring it right to the table, for example. So I don't presume to summon these water beings or dismiss these water beings. So the language I use is I call them in, I invite them in, and then when we're complete, I say, we release our attention with you. We release our attention with you. Right? So, and then I offer them this blessing, and I just say, may your next encounter with humans be filled with love, respect, joy, and playfulness. And we'll see you later. And so this is the kind of blessing that I like to offer.
Well, I hope that your next encounters for the rest of World Unity Week are filled with love and joy and playfulness and all that goodness. And thank you for bringing that energy to this conversation today. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. And you enjoy the rest of your night, Danielea. Looking forward to connecting again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Isabel. Thank you very much. Blessings, Water Sister.